How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Justin Kopet's journey. And today, what I'm holding in my hand is a coin with two sides. And what I want you to do is to call it. Yes, go ahead, call it. Can you just call it? Now, if you understand what I'm saying and have seen the movie to the title of this title, you will know very specifically what I'm talking about. And pardon me, I had to fix my chair as it breaks apart from time to time because it's just getting old, you could say. But it does its job very well. And some of the biggest key takeaways are: one, no country for woke men. How relevant is that in 2025 now? Which is kind of funny, because if you go watch the movie, and the way that the movie ends will be up to you to fully understand. Because for me, the very first time I watched it, it left a complete question mark. Which is why you should call it. And the biggest thing or reason why I wanted to bring it up was not because of the wokeness. What's funny is I see people all the time that I'll speak to on phone calls. There's normally typically three types of people out there in this specific category. There's the woke, the broke, and the bad motherfuckers, the BMFs, if I can't swear properly. But why No Country for Old Men was brought up was simple. If you go and study that character, the one who tells you to call it, you will quickly understand his personality is one of no one else's. It's one of a kind, you could say the least. But it's a masterclass in other areas. Sometimes people tell me that it's almost like they let go fully now with me when it comes to the ideas of movies. Because movies, they involve the cast, the set, the characters, the plot, all of these different ingredients which craft a fantastic movie. And the one who tells you in the movie of No Country for Woke Men, his composure is world class. And composure is very important in any movie. Why? Because some of the scenes get very intense. I'm sure even those movie characters have a tough time, especially in an action movie, to keep composed in those scenes, sets, and shots of the film. So I had this dream as well, which was very, very interesting. And I was talking to a friend about melatonin. 200 milligrams of melatonin for some is a lot. Some say that it depletes you, meaning like once your body runs out of melatonin, it can no longer sustain back to its normal levels. Other people I've heard from is that is not true. It will actually just return back to a baseline. So this is the science world. There's two contradicting angles, viewpoints. But when it comes down to it, if belief is a big factor in it, ultimately, if it's what you believe, it's right. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. Kind of that type of saying, to where if we go across the board, maybe it's just one scientist. What I would also track down is who is paying that scientist to say these things. Because who is a scientist? Think of the guy in the white lab coat. I was talking to my mom the other night, and I asked her, is it hard to say no to a doctor? You know, a doctor in a white lab coat, where they're the authority in a lot of situations. Because, truthfully, you can say no to a doctor, which is why it's very interesting. I found this out a couple years ago, and then had to end up going to the doctor, and it's almost like the unconscious patterns of obeying an authority figure came out. Because for me, it was really tough to say no to all of these things that they were trying to tell me to do. Or one time I went in there to get blood work done, and the guy asked me like 3 or 4 times, like, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, I just want to be proactive about my health. He's like, STDs, things like that. I'm like, no, dude. He's like, tell me, like, is this actually why you're doing it? I'm like, yeah. I just want to know, because there are certain biomarkers in your blood that can pre-diagnose cancers, diseases, things like that. And we're all safe and healthy along with this, because if you can be proactive about it, you should be. And I think that's kind of where collective consciousness as a whole is going. It's all over the internet. It's where I've seen some of these doctors where they're inhaling CO2, carbon monoxide. Like they have an oxygen tank on where they're using it for some sort of thing that can help them. I don't have the details on it, but it's very interesting because no other doctor, probably at least trained by the universities, would tell you to do that. So there was this dream, because when you take these high dosages of melatonin, what it can also do is it can also cleanse the pineal gland. What is the pineal gland? Some call it the third eye, the chakra system, whatever label you have for it. But it's this small little pea-size piece of the brain located, I want to say, if you pointed just above the tops of your ears, or maybe your eardrum, somewhere in there in the center of your brain. And some of these dreams that come about with it are very incredible. So people talk about lucid dreaming and stuff like that. There are some people that also talk about anchoring in certain points in a dream, so that way, say, you can move around in it, etc. But what I've been understanding is, through the remote viewing aspect and process of things, is never go to sleep without setting an intention. Why? Because if our bodies go to rest, or say our spirits go to rest, but our unconscious mind is always working, it's always making progress in some sort of way, which is why the mind is very powerful when you focus on something. But the focus is really driven by your intention. So if you can understand what I'm saying, fantastic. If you can't, just replay it, shoot me a message, call me, text me, whatever you want to do. Let's get down to it. Just because it's always fun to talk about those things. But what I'm also understanding is it's always good to be able to say no. I think saying no is a really good thing, especially because some tasks and things are not as important in accomplishing, the milestones, right? So if we set those big rocks in a bucket, we need to continuously review them. One, I find myself going time to time without actually reviewing what I intended on doing and accomplishing this year. But if you can keep it a daily habit to go back at least one time a week, when you set your weekly intentions maybe, and then review your weekly intentions. So I had to review some weekly intentions yesterday, Thursday, so I can complete 3 or 4 of them, with this podcast being one of them. And I have a few other things that I'm looking to record as well, so it's going to be a good day of recording, and I'm really looking forward to it. So this will be number 1 out of 3. So intention, why is it important? It governs my understanding of the grind harder thing. Work till one collapses. I think I already said it, work harder type of deal, like the grind mentality. So a few of the other things I've understood is, like, if there are parallel universes, and we can zoom in very specifically or get a good scope and move around in the parallel universes to create the intentions that are set on our heart from the divine source, which is the creator, there should fall a perfect alignment between the Lord's will, your will, what inspires you, and the actions that you take. Meaning, if you can identify as I am one that completes the Lord's will, as above, so below, on heaven and earth, and you can align with that in an identity and belief standpoint, when you go to set those intentions at night or in the morning, and you come fresh off of sleep, where you then set those intentions, say the night before, you can feel your heart. Meaning, the heart, for me, can really guide one, to say the least. So if there are these different ways that one communicates with us, sights, sounds, smells, feelings, taste, touch, textures, textiles, etc., it can go down into really micro niching. But if we just keep it very simple, say the 5 factors. For me, if I were to understand when the Holy Spirit is speaking to me as a person, I get chills. I can really feel it. And this has come to my understanding because if you ask, you shall be given. So if you ask very specific questions of, Lord, how is it, or what is it, the best way that I can learn to communicate with you so I can complete your will, I do believe that is a good seed question or notebook question or nightly question that you can ask yourself to then get answers to. To tie it in with the melatonin, though, things are very visual, very real, very lucid dream-like. Now, I'm never going to say I am an expert in lucid dreaming because I don't really understand what, the modern day definition is. It's not really my point of interest, to say the least, just because they're just going to give suggestions of what they think or know works, when in reality what they think or know works could be the complete opposite of what I need as a person to understand how this goes. But there are times where I've proven to myself with writing things down or setting those intentions and then getting answers to very specific questions that I then applied my actions towards that reaped results. So take this again with a grain of salt. But if you were to understand the idea of, does this work, does this not work, who am I to tell you that? Only you know. Which is why I think it's very important for you to wake up, Neo. Because it's time to call it. So you can make a decision that can then benefit you in the long run. So to tie in with all of these open loops, let's close last week's open loop very quickly. And it was about why that construction company does so well. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go re-listen to last week, please. It will make perfect sense to you. And pause it right here, unless you've already listened to it, continue to listen to it. Because their biggest takeaway that I came to the conclusion was with the guy that I was speaking to in terms of a mastermind alliance. I think anyone you speak to can bring a mastermind alliance where these feelings then come as downloads, for me personally, that connect plenty of dots. And outside of the feelings, pictures, sights, sounds, etc., all include. But it's simple. They get after it. That's it. Nothing crazy. They literally just get after it. They do the work. They do the work. Which is beautiful, knowing that's where the roots stem from. So get after it. And with the melatonin, the dreams are very visual, very insightful at times. And I take breaks just to test out the theory of like, can I actually go back to sleep or can I not go to sleep? One of my other buddies brought up the idea that for northern states, it may be not beneficial because of the lack of sunlight that we get in the winter and fall time, which is fair and valid. So with the melatonin though, here we all were. And I say we all were as in you and I. Because if you know you were there, is how I interpret this scene. And it's clearly not a place of this world because we're in a cigar lounge, which is a bar, but these cigars are made out of metal, steel. And people are smoking on these metal steel cigars. And there's this bartender where everyone is seated at a white, clean table, almost like it's a ball or a red carpet or a very important event. And I spoke to a lot of you that were there just briefly. Some were very clear, but what the clearest part of the message was that the bartender turned on this movie. And on the movie, there was playing clips of movies that say I grew up watching. And the biggest revelation here, as we tie it in together, I'll make it very simple. Because you probably know the Toy Story movies, for example. This was one of them. It was a load of almost Disney movies that these characters were friends that I grew up with. Because I watched these movies all the time, right? That's why I saw them as friends on the movie screen. But before I realized it, and as a feeling that came directly to me, was the fact of all of these characters filmed a movie for the final, last time. You know, all the 5 or 6 Toy Story movies that are there. They filmed the final, last episode. And from there, the TV went black, dark. And I got this surge, feeling, knowing, understanding, and wisdom that drew me straight out of my sleep. Cortisol through the roof. Not in a scary way, though. Just a way of knowing that you are here right now in this present moment. You just have to blink a few times. Look around, observe how beautiful things are. And understand that this is the real world. As you say, come out of the trance if you were in one. And you could say that rung my bell for a few hours, if not a few days. And it's cool because if we tie in the dream that I had with the film called No Country for Woke Men, maybe you'll understand if you go and watch the movie. So, with that being said, my friends, as we call it, heads it is. All right, peace be with you. God bless you all. Thanks.